welcome to the live stream. Sandy's here. Okay, so let's go ahead, and this is going to be an interactive conversation. So hopefully you guys will feel free to make comments, to join us in Zoom if you want to. There's still time. And to just generally get involved, because we are really excited about this topic, and Sandy is the perfect person to talk about it. So introducing Sandy. Sandy joined the BrandSpawn team as a virtual assistant, and I'm putting heavy air quotes around that because Sandy has done so much more than that for us. We have become reliant on her for her organizational skills and helping us use common sense sometimes, and how she interacts with the team and keeps us on task. And lately, Sandy's latest title is account manager. So she's even working with some of you guys, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to get her on a BrandSpawn Live and introduce her. In addition to her work with BrandSpawn, Sandy is a jack of all trades, or a Jill of all trades, if you will. And she does so many different things, which again is why she's perfect for this topic about monetizing your passion, following different passions, and not just sticking with one solid career job for your whole life, but trying out lots of different things. So among her titles, and I have a list because I wasn't going to remember, course creator, flower arranger / gardening enthusiast, Airbnb host, and then of course she's worked with UD off and on over the years, and has a pretty extensive career there, which she brings that expertise to everything that she does. So Sandy, I will stop talking, and why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background before we dive into the topic.
Well, thanks a lot, Jen. I really appreciate that glowing welcome, and welcome to anyone who is here joining us today. So I just wanted to, this sort of title is sort of cliche about following your passions and do what you love, and, everything will work out and everything's happy. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to work for what you get. But you can choose your path. Life is like a giant choose your own adventure. So you have to watch for those opportunities and then follow them. And anytime you can dovetail your efforts and streamline those things, you can find great success. So I'm really excited to share my journey today. I might be a little farther down the road than some of you. In fact, my daughter is probably your age, but that doesn't mean that I have lost any enthusiasm or verve for life. I just might have a little more time, but I remember when time was the most valuable commodity in my life. And it still is, but this is a little monologue on how to help you maybe channel your strengths and get to where you want to be a little faster.
You started talking about time and time management. I got excited and I'm like, nope, that's not what this presentation is about. Because that is where I'm at with my life right now. Okay, well, let's start with your philosophy on doing what you love.
Sure. So I think everyone has their own things that you just make your heart sing, and you need to listen to those. I'm a big proponent of, that saying, go big or go home. But honestly, I like a home to go to. So for me, having financial stability is a huge, underlying principle. So even though I love gardening and even though I love flower arranging, I knew that if I poured my heart into floral design, I would have to be in it for the money. And that's not where I want it to be. I want it to be in that for the joy. So, you have to follow your joy. I'm sure you've all watched Marie Kondo and all that and organizing your life. But, you have to think, what's going to make that balance work for you? So even though I love floral design, I never want to open a flower shop myself. I don't want that overhead. I don't want that business thing. I don't want to work every Saturday. I don't want to work with Bridezilla. I want to choose my projects, and I get to do that because I have established myself as someone who can bring it. So I get plenty of business referrals that keep me happy and keep my clients happy. Okay, so what else do we want to talk about? Well, I guess, I don't know, were we back to a leading question from you, Jen, or am I?
Yeah, sorry. We have someone entering the Zoom, so welcome, Holly. Just as a heads up, Holly, we are live streaming, so you're welcome to turn on your camera and join us in this conversation, or you can stay hidden and then we'll have a private conversation after the live stream ends. Up to you. Okay, so yeah, so Sandy, you were just talking about kind of the philosophy of how just because you do it doesn't mean you have to do it all the time. And so a lot of people think like, oh, if I follow my passion, it has to be my main job, but instead it can be different hobbies. But I love what you were saying about, I know, and this is something that Jane and I have talked about. You'll have a hobby and you try to monetize it and then you kind of fall out of love with it. Mm-hmm. So that, and maybe this isn't the right point in the conversation, but that's something I'd love to talk about is how do you monetize something that you're passionate about and then not lose passion for it?
Sure. So, Jen, you're just like the perfect person to be leading this conversation with me because you know where I want to go before I quite, get that in my mind. It's like you're in my head and you're organizing me. So thank you. So one of the things that I did for many years was instructional design, which is helping faculty design online courses. And so that was my main job. And I loved that. I loved working with faculty. I loved, the computer side of it because I am Microsoft certified. I'm a Google file. I just love how technology helps advance our life. But I always wanted to become better at my job with instructional design. So rather than just always working on someone else's project, I decided to take my floral design skills and turn them into a course. It would let me practice and become proficient with video recording and closed captioning and, share the knowledge that I had. Plus, we think that we're going to remember everything, but I don't know. I think once you start having children, you realize that the mental faculties begin to erode. And so we need to make more notes, or we need to somehow keep that knowledge, even if it's just for ourselves. So I went ahead and I recorded a course, and it's on a platform called Udemy, udemy.com. It's free to make a course there. Courses are very economical, and it's nicer than just like YouTube learning because it's all compartmentalized. You can sign up for a course, you get a certificate at the end. The courses can be anything from free to actually rather a big investment. I mean, if you want to do Six Sigma training, you can go to Udemy and get that. But they all have a teacher behind there if you want to contact them. They're meant to be self-paced. And, it's great. Now, I put my course up, as I said, for several reasons. One, to work on my instructional design skills, my video recording skills, to see what it's like to be on the teaching side of it rather than just the developing side of it. And then also to save that knowledge for myself in case it started to erode out of my brain. So I put that all up there, and you can also make a little bit of money out of it because Udemy takes care of all the advertising and things like that. I am not saying that it is the best course in the world, but I have made in completely, self-supported income. I don't know. I don't do anything for it anymore. I've made over $6,000 on that course.
Nice. Passive income.
Passive income, right? Yeah. Passive income. Thank you. But it's been up there since 2013. So if you were to look at it today, you'd be like, "Ooh, this video quality is not so great. Oh, her hair is brown then. Oh, there are differences." However, it's not worth re-recording because the content is still okay. Okay, so I'm not saying that it's a stellar course. I'm saying it's a way that I took something that I love to do, which is floral design, and make some sideline income about it, and then share with people, and also build my skills for instructional design. Back in 2013, I could show that as a sample of my work. A lot of times what I do, it's someone else's work that I'm just helping to design. So you may need to create your own samples of work, and this is something that you can certainly do. Another thing, as I mentioned, is I love computer skill development. And as someone who is a little older in the workforce, I get it when people my age and even younger struggle with computers. and they struggle, and they see people that are in their 20s and 30s coming in and moving up into management and not being able to keep up with that level of computing skill. So one of the things I do is workforce development classes. And that all comes from the fact that I love to teach. So it's all coming around to teaching. I really enjoy sharing. And if you like to talk to people, you probably like to teach too. If you're an introvert, you may like teaching online better than face-to-face because you can have more control. So whatever it is, it's getting information out, it's sharing. So so I did teaching for Newcastle County as a part-time gig for like 13 years, Saturday mornings at the library. I didn't make a ton of money. I made enough to cover my time. But what I got was so much back from the people who would come, who weren't paying for these classes. The library was paying for it. And they were coming in and they were so grateful. So that feeling of gratitude, the feeling that you're making a difference, is so enriching. So it doesn't always have to be about the finances if you've got them covered on your day job.
Okay. I was going to say, for teaching, it's often not about the finances.
Yep. Let's see. So what else did I do? And so my teaching classes also led to other opportunities because one of my students from one of my classes came in and said, I took a computing class at Cecil College, and I learned more in your free class than I did in the one I paid for. You really need to teach at Cecil College. Well, I had children at a very young age. I had my daughter in my senior year of high school. I never went to college. So I've had that glass ceiling my whole life, whether I imposed it or not. Education is really important. We're seeing a shift in employers. Some employers are not looking at degrees as closely as they used to if you have certificates that show your merit. But in a lot of places, you have to have a bachelor's just to be considered. So I was like really reticent. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can teach out of college. Well, I ended up, with his encouragement, sending in my resume. And the woman called me and she said, we just had a cancellation. Your credentials look great. Could you start soon? I was like, okay. How about Wednesday? Literally, this was Monday.
Wow.
She said, we had an instructor who was scheduled for maternity leave, and it started early and we weren't prepared. So I said, well, I'll give it a try. Because it was their adult education program, it wasn't, my qualifications weren't at the level at like a university level. I didn't have to have the degree. I needed to have the certification. And then I also had the passion for teaching. So I taught with them for over 7 years. I still teach with them once in a while, but not as often, more out of my choice, just because people aren't taking Microsoft classes much anymore. They're just not. They're drifting away from the Microsoft platform. So those classes aren't filling. But that gave me other opportunities where I developed training programs through Cecil College for businesses like, you may recognize W.L. Gore, Orbital ATK, Terumo, Micropore, and even the Elkton WISH program. It is their workforce development program for Susquehanna. So that just brought more opportunity. So you see, I didn't actually go after it, but I was open to it. So that's what you need to do. You need to be open and recognize those opportunities, and then just don't say no, and don't underestimate yourself. You can do it. Other people see it in you. You need to believe it.
There's a book, Year of Yes, by Chandra Rhimes, and that is all about that, about how she had kind of limited her world by saying no all the time, and someone challenged her. She was like, you know what, I will start saying yes, and like how dramatically different her life is now, just for a year of saying yes to as much as she possibly could, without drowning herself in to-dos.
Right. So that is something to consider, though, is that over yesing and overextending ourselves. So I try to, when I say yes, I try and keep it into something that is on that path of enjoyment. You know, I have been offered things that I knew just didn't make my heart sing. You know, yeah, the money could have been good. And then sometimes I did it. You know, sometimes you're like, it's a short-term project. It's, you know, going to help their company. But then you just say, I did that, and you move on. And that's fine. It's really okay. You just need to evaluate each of these occurrences and decide, keep it or tuck it away for, you know, future. Keep it and build on it, or say, no, no more for that. As far as the Udemy, just going back to that one, it's pretty funny. I had started on YouTube because I was a Google person and YouTube was great. And I was putting up Microsoft, you know, training things. By the way, my key thing is mail merge. So if you're doing mail merge with Microsoft, you need to do double-sided name tents. That's a big one. Okay, you're at the round table. You want to see the person's name on both sides. That's not as easy as you think.
I don't think it's
not
easy.
hard. It's really easy if you know one trick.
Yeah.
Or sequentially numbered raffle tickets. I had a guy invite me to his concert in Spain because he was so excited that my tutorial let him, you know, print his raffle tickets.
Did you go?
I did not go to Spain, but it was really awesome. I mean, he didn't, you know, throw in the airfare or anything, but
yeah. I was like, speaking of opportunities to say yes to.
I know. It was also when my kids were littler, so.
Oh yeah.
So we had 5 children in 5 different schools one year. So for parents that are raising children, I feel you. And going through this COVID stuff, it's got to be really hard.
I didn't know you had 5 kids.
Yeah, well, I have 3 biological, and then I have 2 step, but they're almost the same ages. So we had 5 in the house at one time. Yeah, it was crazy times.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would have led with that. Raised 5 children and is still sane.
Oh, I don't know if I'm sane, but I'm happy. So, you know, that's okay. Let's see. Okay, so other ways to look for opportunities. So anyway, this Udemy course has been out there, and I've been approached by other course design companies, online companies, to pick up that content. One of them is in the UK, and it was called Of Courses. And they just said, can we put it out there? And that's the thing, when you're putting something up on a something like Udemy, you still own it. It's fine. You do whatever you want with it. And so I just took my package and I renamed a couple things. I didn't even have to re-record anything because I made sure I only mentioned Udemy in the introduction video. Other than that, it was all about the content. Okay, so you want to think about that. There's customization, and then there's, you know, non-customization for a purpose. So I could just send everything right to Of Courses, and they put it up, and I don't get as much from them, but I've gotten probably $1,000, you know, over time. But it's just neat to know my courses in the UK now. And then I got approached by a company called StudyPlex in Asia, and then Coursel, who does Europe. They have slightly different platforms where, like, if anyone signs up for my Coursel course, I actually teach it. So they're not all just the passive income, but they're different opportunities, and I would pick and choose. With Coursel, they are helping me with a full textbook. I did a 170-page textbook that they are, you know, taking care of the formatting, and I'll be able to say that I'm a published author on floral design. So that all, you know, upped my credibility in the industry as well. And then just back to why I got away from YouTube. So I started in YouTube and put up the Microsoft videos, and it's great. And I still get like a subscriber almost every month. I'll get a subscriber. And I'm like, I haven't put up any new content in like 6 years. But it's those mail merge videos. People are still struggling with that sometimes, which amazes me. I stopped with YouTube when they changed their monetization. I used to just want to just put a little, you know, commercial at the very beginning, and that's it. I didn't break it all up and all through it because they were short videos, but I was like, I made this content, I should be able to monetize it. So I put that on, and they changed it so that you had to have 1,000 subscribers before monetization would work. Yeah, that's the face I had, Jen. It's like, why? What are you losing by,
right, well,
what is YouTube losing by not paying this little tiny bit out? It's not like they're paying much, but let's face it, male merge is not sexy. I will never have a giant following, and that's fine. But that's when I was like, well, if YouTube's not going to get me what I want, I'm not going to put my floral design stuff up there. And that's when I went to Udemy, so I kind of backtracked over that a little bit, but it was all a process. YouTube was great. It was the perfect fit for a while. And then I had to watch for another opportunity.
Yeah. Can we actually talk about that? Because I feel like this one idea of, oh, I might like teaching, or someone, suggested you might like teaching, and there's so many different ways to go about it. And so you were saying, oh, I don't have the credentials to be an instructor at a university, but then, oh, adult certification class was a different way to do that. And then online courses was another way to do it, and even getting monetized on YouTube. So the idea that you can still be a teacher and your first idea might not work out, but there might be a different way to come at it and approach it. I think that's an awesome one that I want to make sure the people watching get.
Thank you. And thank you for pulling all those strings together and summarizing that, because that's so helpful for the audience here. Because I can just, blah, blah, blah. But we're getting back to the fact that we had 5 kids and now we're empty nesters. So now we're into our next, income stream. We could have sold the house and gotten a smaller place, and that would have been fine. But we're in Newark, which is a good location. It's a university town, and housing is desirable here. So we have a 2-story house, a bi-level. So my husband and I moved downstairs, and we decided to rent the upstairs. And so basically we put out a Google form on Craigslist, and did that decision tree. If you smoke, sorry, we're not interested in having you live with us, this sort of thing, that sort of, but it was great. I got like 4 people that got through the form in the first 2 weeks that it was out there. Of that, just reading what they wrote, I knew that 2 of them were not going to be a good fit. I'm sorry, I don't want somebody with 4 children. Thank you. I'm not against children, but that's just a lot of kids. Well,
I was going to say, you already did that once. You don't want to do it again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind some kids, but not that many. And it's only a 3-bedroom, 1-bath accommodation upstairs if you take the upstairs. So we found a nice couple. They were coming in from New Jersey, and it was a good fit for them. It was a good fit for us. And they were with us for 4.5 years. And in fact, they didn't have any plans on ever moving, it seemed, but it was time for a shift for us. As we were talking about it, we knew we weren't getting the full potential out of that space that we could, but that wasn't our goal. Our goal was to get good people, some nice housing, really their income paid almost all of our mortgage. So we were living virtually mortgage free. But we were hoping that by setting the rent low, we set the rent low with the intent that they would be able to save and they could move on to something better, their own place, and not be stuck in the rental loop that we see these young people in. You pay $1,700 for apartment rent. How are you ever going to get a house? So they were with us for 4.5 years, and we didn't see them taking advantage of this opportunity time. And it was nothing against them. They weren't seeing the opportunity. So we decided it was time to do something else with the space. So now we are in the process of redoing the upstairs and preparing it for Airbnb. And we expect that with Airbnb, we'll be able to have the whole house at Christmas time when all the kids come over, which is a big thing for us. And that was kind of hard when we had permanent people in. But being close to the university, we have alumni weekend and parents weekend, and there's, lots of opportunity. And we expect to make twice as much as our mortgage in Airbnb for half the amount of rental time. And we'll have it professionally cleaned on a regular basis, which will be awesome.
I was gonna ask about that because my brother-in-law does Airbnb, and then because he's got like the house cleaner on rotation and he has like a property manager between all the expenses, I think he just like brings it in and puts it out again. But you can be profitable if you do more of that stuff yourself.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to be in the house. So as far as like linens and stuff, we'll do all that. We don't need a property manager. We'll be maintaining the space. But yeah, we'll have, the Molly maids coming in cleaning it, because why not? And that's a great way to do it. Now, it did help that my daughter manages a property that's an Airbnb. So that's why I wasn't afraid to try this, because I know it works, and I know it works in this area. So it's not like I'm just saying, oh, I've heard about this, it's a good idea. No, I did my research and I know it will work. So, you have to have some faith, but of course you have to do your due diligence too. I don't think an Airbnb would work as well maybe on a farm in Iowa. Maybe it would, but maybe it wouldn't. I know here it will work.
But go ahead and tell us about, like, I guess how the gardening fits in to everything.
Oh, sure. So, another recent interest with floral design, I like to grow a lot of my own flowers, but I've also gotten into growing more of my own produce. Got the little LED light plant starters, which are amazing. You should try them. You can have fresh herbs all year, but I've also learned so much in a short time, because I've been looking for it, that in our climate in Delaware, we can grow produce almost all year round. So like we just had it go down to 20 degrees. So my broccoli just gave up the ghost, but I still have carrots out there. The beets are still there. You can do turnips. You can, do all sorts of great cold weather crops into the winter, and then in very early spring. We look at it that, you can only grow when the plants are at the garden center. No, there's so much more you can learn about that. If you've never gotten into gardening before, but it's something you want to try, start with the garden center stuff, but don't limit yourself to when they say that these plants are available. My next big background project, though, is I am writing a book series. It's a mystery book series. I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie, and this is called The Yoga Files, and all 6 books are outlined. And the first one is called Premeditation Murder. And if you're interested in that, you can visit my website and just let me know that you're interested, and I'll let you know when it's ready for release, and I'll even give you a discount coupon for it. So
I'm actually really excited about that. My mom loves Agatha Christie, so I'm like, okay, note, we'll purchase that for next Mother's Day, Christmas, whatever the next holiday is.
I'm not saying I will be writing at her caliber, but it will be along those lines. Like it won't be one of these like bloody, gory crime thrillers, but yeah, there always has to be a murder.
Yeah. Well, and it's just exciting to support local authors and be like, hey, I've actually met this person in real life. Okay. Well, for those of you watching on Facebook, we are going to drop the link to Sandy's website in the chat, so that if you're interested in following up with her with any of these things, or just hearing about when the yoga files come out, you can get updates on that. And I'm going to go ahead and shut off the live stream. Again, for Facebook watchers, make sure you come back in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about copywriting for your business and how to have a compelling website, the role that copywriting plays into that, with our guest Lauren Rudzis of Moon Gaze Copy. So that should be a really interesting presentation. Okay, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks.